It all begins with a thought, silent, invisible, intangible, yet more powerful than matter itself. Since ancient times, sages, prophets, and mystics have repeated this forgotten truth. What you believe, you create. Your thoughts are not weightless echoes. They are invisible bricks that build or destroy your reality. Welcome to Constructive or Destructive Thought, How Your Beliefs Shape Your Destiny, a work inspired by the timeless wisdom of Florence Scovel Shinn, pioneer of metaphysical thought and fearless voice of the spiritual power of the spoken word. This is not just another book. It is a key, an invitation to awaken to the inner dialogue that shapes your life. Here you will discover that every belief you hold either opens the path to your highest destiny or locks you into the one you fear. The universe responds not to what you say, but to what you truly think and feel. In every chapter you will learn how to reprogram your mind like an alchemist of the soul, to transform fear into faith, doubt into certainty, limitation into abundance, because your destiny is not written in the stars, it is written in your mind. And from this moment on, you become the conscious author of your reality. The world you see around you is nothing more than the reflection of the thoughts that dwell in your mind. Every experience, every encounter, every opportunity you have taken or missed has been shaped by the invisible substance of your thought. There is no chance, no blind luck, only the relentless law of the mind in action. What you think builds you or destroys you. It is that simple, that absolute. There are those who believe their failures are the fault of external forces, fate, injustice, circumstances. But the truth, the only truth that underlies the structure of the universe, is that thought is the silent architect of life. Some thoughts build, others destroy. The mind can be the workshop of a builder or the ruin of an abandoned temple. What are you building at this very moment? There are two paths in the mind, the path of faith and the path of fear. But faith, like fire, is neither good nor bad in itself. Everything depends on where you place it. There is faith in scarcity, faith in illness, faith in loss. The person who constantly fears misfortune does nothing but water it with their anxiety, until one day the bitter harvest appears. The one who repeatedly affirms that money is scarce, that life is difficult, that love is a mirage, ends up living exactly that self-imposed prophecy. The scriptures say, "For the thing I greatly feared has come upon me, and what I dreaded has happened to me." Job was not carried away by injustice, but by his own fear. His mind wove the net in which he was caught. In the same way, the person who lives in fear of betrayal finds it around every corner. The one who fears poverty always seems to be on the edge of ruin. The one who sees illness as their family inheritance falls victim to the very ailment they feared so much. It is not punishment, nor a curse. It is the law in its most relentless form. But there is another path. Just as fear shapes a destiny of shadows, the unshakable certainty that good is inevitable builds a path of light. The one who walks through life with the conviction that abundance surrounds them, who does not allow fear to poison their spirit, who rejects the idea that loss is inevitable, discovers that doors open without effort, that walls fall, that providence sustains them at the precise moment. What you are thinking right now is a seed sown in the fertile soil of the subconscious. That seed will grow, sooner or later. You cannot avoid the harvest, but you can choose what to plant. The purpose of this book is to give you the tools to understand and apply this law. It is not enough to wish for a better life. You must uproot the ideas that have poisoned your destiny and plant new truths. The words you speak within yourself are commands that the universe fulfills with mathematical precision. From this moment on, each thought must be examined with the same care you would take when choosing a stone to build a house. Will it support the weight of what you wish to build, or will it be the crack that collapses the structure? Faith in good and faith in evil are equally powerful forces. One lifts you, the other destroys you, but both are within your reach. Where will you place your trust, your destruction or your blessing? Thoughts are things. Florence Scovel Shinn. We have noticed that more than 90% of those who visit our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by clicking the subscribe button and liking the video. Thank you for inspiring us to keep creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. Life is a game with spiritual rules. Life is a game, but not a game of chance. It is a game of exact laws, as precise as those that govern the course of the stars or the growth of a seed in the soil. There is no coincidence, no strokes of luck, no undeserved misfortunes. There is only awareness or lack thereof of the rules that govern this great board we call existence. An ignorant player may lament their losses, thinking fortune has turned against them. But the wise understand that every outcome is the result of a move, well made or poorly made. The same is true for human beings. When they do not know the spiritual rules, they flounder in confusion, failing to understand why their efforts fail or why the same types of difficulties seem to follow them relentlessly. But when they realize that every thought, every word, and every emotion is a move in this great game, they begin to play skillfully, and the results change. These rules were not written by human hands, nor dictated by tradition. They are immutable laws engraved in the very structure of the universe, operating with unfailing precision. When a person follows them, success becomes a natural consequence, not a miracle. When they defy them, failure descends with the same certainty with which a stone thrown into the air must fall back to the earth. The first rule is the law of the mind. Everything a person conceives inwardly must manifest outwardly. It is the principle that whatever is believed with faith, whether good or bad, must take form in one's experience. Whoever understands this truth stops being a victim of circumstance and takes hold of their destiny. But they also realize the danger of uncontrolled thoughts, for fear, when sustained with enough intensity, has the same creative power as faith. The mind does not distinguish between the seed of good and the seed of evil. It simply obeys the command and produces fruit accordingly. The second rule is the law of the word. What you speak, you summon into existence. Every word spoken with conviction is a decree. That is why the scriptures warn, life and death are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Some people speak misfortune over themselves without realizing they are pronouncing sentences on their own destiny. "I'm never lucky," they say, and the universe replies, "So be it." Money slips through my fingers, and so it does. The tongue is a double-edged sword. It can be the tool of your redemption or the executioner of your deepest fears. The third rule is the law of resistance and surrender. Whatever you chase with anxiety will flee, and whatever you release with trust will come to you effortlessly. Those who cling with clenched fists, afraid to lose their job, their love, or their wealth, will inevitably see what they most fear vanish from their lives. It is the law. But those who release fear and walk in the certainty that nothing is lacking, that all good is divinely assured, will see what they need appear at just the right moment in the most unexpected way. These are but a few of the fundamental principles of the great game of life, a game in which no one is a helpless pawn, but a player with the power to direct their own destiny. The rules have already been established and cannot be violated without consequence, but the one who learns to apply them with wisdom and confidence discovers that life is not a battle of suffering and lack, but a stage where everything is arranged for their success and joy. There is no victory without understanding. There is no fulfillment without knowledge. The key is knowing how to play and playing with faith. Life is not a struggle or a series of random events. Life is a game, a board where every piece moves according to unchanging rules. There is no error in the universe, nor randomness in human existence. Everything that happens to us has been drawn by our own thoughts, our words, our beliefs, or our fears. We cannot escape this law, but we can learn to play in our favor. Someone might ask, if life is a game, why do so many seem to lose at it? Why do sickness, poverty, lovelessness, and misfortune seem more common than joy and abundance? The answer is simple, because most people play without knowing the rules. They do not realize that every thought is a move, every emotion is a strategy, and every word is a command to destiny. The ignorant stumble in the dark, while the wise walk with confidence, for they know the way and understand where it leads. The scriptures have given us precise instructions for this game. In Proverbs 23:7, we are told, "For as he thinks in his heart, so is he." That is, man is not shaped by his circumstances, but by his thoughts. If a person constantly thinks of lack, they will see lack reflected in their life. If someone fears sickness continually, that very fear becomes the cause of their illness. The mind is the true battlefield. This is where the most important match is played. The invisible rules that govern life begin in thought. The first great rule is that the mind is the architect of destiny. Whatever one visualizes with faith materializes, whether for good or for harm. One cannot think poverty and attract wealth, nor think failure and manifest success. Thought is the master blueprint of the structure of life. This is where the danger of an undisciplined mind lies. Many live in constant fear, repeating, "I always get sick in winter. I never have enough money. Good things don't happen to me." And when illness comes, when money is lacking, when their lives remain in constant struggle, they wonder why. They don't understand that they have been playing against themselves, declaring their own destiny without even realizing it. Fear is a form of faith. It is a firm belief that something bad will happen. And since the universe does not distinguish between what man wants and what he fears, only what he believes most, that fear is fulfilled with the same precision as any other belief. Fear is faith in evil, the certainty that the negative will come, and by the same law that governs everything in the universe, so it does. The second rule is the law of the spoken word. In Proverbs 18:21 we read, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit." That is, every word from our mouth is a seed that will inevitably bear fruit. Many people sow thorns in their own path without realizing it. They speak of themselves with disdain. They say they have no luck, that life is hard, that times are bad. And when they see their lives reflect these very words, they do not understand why. They lament, yet keep repeating the same pattern. Words are decrees. When someone says, "I'm always sick," they are commanding their body to be ill. When they say, "There are no opportunities for me," they are closing the doors that might have opened. When they say, "Money is never enough," they are establishing that lack as law in their life. But when someone declares with faith, "God is my provider and always supplies my needs," or "Everything in my life aligns for my good," they are planting seeds of abundance and success. The third principle that governs this game is the law of resistance and surrender. The more desperately someone pursues something, the more it escapes their grasp. The more they fear losing, the faster they lose. This is why fear of poverty drives money away, and the obsession to hold on to a loved one pushes them further away. Jesus said, "Whoever wants to save their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it." Matthew 10:39. These words hold a deep mystery. What is clutched with fear slips away, but what is released with faith returns multiplied. Who releases fear and lack, and trusts that abundance is guaranteed, sees money arrive effortlessly. Who releases attachment to a relationship and blesses their loved one in freedom, sees love either strengthened or manifested in a higher form. The universe responds precisely to the mind's vibration. Resistance blocks. Surrender opens. How to play to win? The first step is to watch the mind as a sentry guards the gates of a fortress. No thought of fear, defeat, or lack should be allowed in without being questioned. If a negative thought appears, it must be rejected and replaced immediately. If the mind says, "You will fail," the reply must be, "My success is assured by divine law." If it says, "You'll never have enough," the answer must be, "God is my infinite source, and my supply never fails." If the mind says there is no way out, the response must be, "The path opens before me in perfect order." Life follows the direction of thought. That's why in Deuteronomy 30:19, we read a solemn warning, I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life. It is not God who chooses, nor fate that decides. It is man who chooses each day through his thoughts and words whether he will walk in blessing or in curse. The second step is to speak with awareness. It is not enough to think rightly. Every spoken word must be in harmony with divine law. The tongue must not be used to sow fear, to complain, to curse, or to speak defeat. It must be used as a channel for conscious creation. The third step is to let go of struggle and trust the process. Whoever plays with desperation ends up losing. Faith is not a fight, but a state of absolute certainty that good is inevitable. It is not about begging, pleading, or worrying, but about affirming, and then resting in the assurance that the law will fulfill itself. The great secret: life is a game, but not one where destiny is out of our control. Every thought is a move, every word is a motion, every emotion is a strategy. Whoever understands the rules can shape their destiny like a sculptor shaping marble. Whoever ignores them remains a victim of their own beliefs. Today you can choose whether to play with faith or with fear, whether to use your thoughts to build or to destroy, whether to direct your words toward the light or the shadow. The choice is yours, but once chosen, the law will do its work and it will not fail. Chapter 2. The Power of Word and Thought. The word is the chisel with which man sculpts his destiny. There is no creation without the word, nor manifestation without thought. Since the most ancient times, humanity has understood, if only in fleeting flashes of wisdom, that the tongue holds a hidden power, and that what is spoken with certainty becomes reality. Most people walk through life unaware that every word that leaves their mouth is a seed that will eventually bear fruit. They do not think about the consequences of their statements or the strength of their repeated thoughts. But the law does not require man's understanding to operate. It matters not if someone is unaware of gravity. If they drop a stone, it will fall just the same. In the same way, those who proclaim ruin, scarcity, and illness with their mouths will reap exactly what they have sown, because the law of the word does not fail. Throughout history, great civilizations have understood the power of the spoken word. The ancient Hebrews revered the act of declaring a decree, for they knew the word does not return empty. The sages of old understood that what man declares with conviction is imprinted into the very fabric of the universe. However, the knowledge of this law has been lost in the noise of the modern world. Today, people speak without thinking, curse without fear, utter judgments lightly, and then they are surprised when life reflects back the chaos they've sown with their lips. Thought is the source, word is the key, and manifestation is the result. What man silently thinks shapes his reality, but when he expresses it aloud, he gives it life and seals it in the visible world. Just as an architect first envisions in his mind the image of a building before drawing it on a plan, and only then can it be constructed, so too man first creates in his thoughts, then strengthens it with words, and finally sees it manifested in his life. The difference is that while the architect is aware of his design, most people build their destiny unconsciously, raising towers of misery through careless thoughts and reckless speech. It is no wonder that man finds himself surrounded by the very problems he claims to wish to avoid. I have met people who, from their youth, have told themselves they would never succeed, and indeed they have watched opportunities slip through their fingers time and again. Others have lived with the belief that money leaves as quickly as it comes, and they have experienced that exact reality, no matter how much they earn. The words man speaks about himself become the laws of his existence, not because there is divine punishment involved, but because that is the law, and the law allows no exceptions. The danger of misused words is that the universe does not distinguish between what is said as a joke and what is said in earnest. A person might laugh and say, "My memory is terrible," and over time will see their mind fail at crucial moments. Another may jokingly declare, "I have bad luck in love," and unknowingly place an invisible barrier in their life that repels joy. The subconscious mind does not reason, question, or analyze. It simply obeys. And when something is repeated again and again, it becomes an unbreakable command. Just as the word can be a tool of creation, it can also be an instrument of destruction. A mother who constantly tells her child that he is clumsy or incapable is planting a seed in his mind that will grow into failure. A boss who habitually humiliates his employees is creating an atmosphere where mediocrity and apathy will flourish. A man who complains daily of his misfortune is reinforcing with every word the prison of his own scarcity. Man should be as careful with his words as he would be handling fire in a room full of gunpowder. But instead he speaks without control, declares without thinking, indulges in the habit of complaint and curse, and then is shocked when life returns, with infallible precision, the reflection of his words. I have seen people say they never find health and illness clings to them. I have seen others proclaim that love always betrays them, and in every relationship they live the same repeated drama. But just as the word can seal a destiny of shadows, it can also be the key that opens the gates of light. I have witnessed how a person who changes their way of speaking can transform their life in a matter of days. I have seen the sick heal by replacing words of pain with words of health. I have seen men rise from financial ruin simply by changing the way they speak about their situation. The key is to speak in terms of what is desired, not what is feared. It's such a simple rule that most ignore it as too easy. But the truth is, man is always manifesting whatever he gives the most energy to with his thoughts and words. Whoever says, "My life is full of opportunities," will see doors open in unexpected ways. Whoever affirms, "My path is clear and all things work for my good," will begin to see obstacles melt like smoke. A change in words can change a destiny, but for that to happen, man must discipline his speech. He must watch every expression that leaves his mouth and ask, "Am I planting something I want to see grow in my life?" If not, he must uproot those words and replace them with ones that build instead of destroy. There are those who argue this is nonsense, that words are just air, sounds that vanish instantly. But I tell you, the word is the very substance of creation. If in the beginning all was created through the word, why would it be any different now? If the entire universe was called into existence by the vibration of a divine command, what makes man think his words have no power? Each person is the architect of their destiny, and their mouth is the brush with which it is painted. Every affirmation is a stroke on the canvas of life. Words are not just sounds, they are decrees, and the universe receives them with the same seriousness that a seed receives the command to become a tree. Today, man can begin to change his life simply by changing the way he speaks. He can start saying, "Everything I need comes to me at the perfect time," instead of, "I never get what I want." He can replace "It's so hard to achieve my goals" with "Success flows to me with ease." He can abandon the habit of complaining and adopt the habit of gratitude. It is not a titanic effort, nor esoteric knowledge hidden away. It only requires that each word spoken be sown with intention and faith. And then, like a sower who trusts the harvest, man will see how life returns to him the multiplied fruit of his words. Chapter 3. Releasing the burden and trusting in divine intelligence. Most people cling to their worries as if their lives depended on them. They hold on to fear of scarcity, anxiety about the future, guilt over the past, believing deep down that their anxiety might somehow prevent evil or attract good. But the truth is that worry is simply misplaced faith. It is the belief that the problem has more power than the solution. It is a firm conviction in chaos rather than harmony. The person who learns to release the burden and trust in divine intelligence frees themselves from the yoke of uncertainty. Not because they become irresponsible or careless, but because they understand that there is a higher law that sustains their life, a law wiser and more powerful than their limited mind. When a person resists, when they fight against circumstances, when they try to solve everything through personal effort, it is like trying to row upstream against a raging river. But when they release the burden and allow divine intelligence to guide them, the same river gently carries them to their destination. "Cast your burden upon the Lord, and he will sustain you," says the psalmist. Yet, how many people truly do this? Most ask for help, but the moment they finish their prayer, they take the worry back as if saying, "I'm not sure you'll actually deliver it." It's like handing a package to a messenger, then snatching it back moments later, doubting it will reach its destination. This is what happens when someone claims to trust divine intelligence, but continues to be tormented by fear. Asking is not enough, you must trust. Declaring is not enough, you must release. Divine intelligence operates in perfect harmony. Just as the sun rises without human effort, just as a seed germinates without anyone pulling it from the soil, so too does the spiritual law work without human strain. But man's fear and impatience are the very things that obstruct its action. He wants immediate results. He wants proof before trusting. He wants to control the process. But faith does not require evidence. Faith is certainty without proof. I knew a woman who for years lived in constant anxiety about her financial situation. She counted every last coin, made endless calculations, imagined every possible misfortune. And as expected, scarcity never left her. One day after understanding this law, she decided to try a new way. Instead of worrying, she simply said, "Divine intelligence sustains and provides for me." She placed the burden in God's hands and trusted that all would be supplied. She refused to fear. She refused to worry. And then the unexpected happened. Within days, she received a job opportunity she had never imagined, along with the financial security she had longed for. What changed wasn't her effort, her planning, or her math. It was her inner vibration. By releasing the burden of fear, she made space for divine intelligence to act. Her anxiety had been a wall blocking abundance, but when she let go, the door opened. Fear and anxiety are obstacles on the path of good. Just as a farmer doesn't dig up the soil every day to check if the seed is growing, so too must we plant our faith and allow the harvest to come in due time. The farmer doesn't doubt the seed. He trusts that nature's law will do the rest. Likewise, the one who trusts in divine intelligence neither worries nor rushes. The scriptures say, "Do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink or wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing?" Yet modern man lives as though he's never heard these words. He frets about the future, fears loss, clings to what he thinks he needs, without realizing that this very anxiety blocks his provision. When man releases the burden and stops fighting against the current carries him exactly where he needs to go. I've known people who spent years chasing a goal with effort and sacrifice, only to find that the moment they stopped struggling and trusted, what they were seeking arrived with ease. The problem is never the lack of resources. It is the lack of trust. The world does not lack money, love, or health. What it lacks is faith that all good is already available. A man who had been jobless for months came to me full of worry. He said he had sent out hundreds of applications, done everything humanly possible, but nothing worked. I told him, "Stop struggling, stop insisting with anxiety, say these words. The perfect job is now revealed to me by divine intelligence. I do not need to search, for it is already on its way." At first he thought it was absurd. He believed he had to keep trying, keep searching tirelessly, but seeing that his method didn't work, he decided to try. He forced himself to let go of the burden. He refused to worry. He calmly repeated the affirmation without anxiety. In less than a week, he received an unexpected job offer, without even looking for it. The job found him, not the other way around. This is the power of surrender. When a person stops chasing what they desire in fear, what they desire begins to chase them. But releasing the burden doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean sitting idly by. It means acting from certainty, not from fear. The difference is subtle but profound. A man can search for a job in desperation, fearing he'll never find one, or he can search with confidence, knowing it's already his. He can face a problem fearing failure, or walk forward trusting the solution is already coming. The action may be the same, but the attitude is different. and attitude determines the outcome. When man releases fear and trusts in divine intelligence, miracles become part of his daily life. What once seemed impossible resolves effortlessly. Doors that were closed open without being forced. Answers arrive unbidden. The universe rearranges itself in favor of the one who stops struggling and begins to trust. The one who clings to the burden only makes it heavier. The one who releases it finds rest. Just as a bird is not afraid that the sky will vanish beneath its wings, so too should man trust that the path will always unfold before him, even when he cannot yet see it. Everything man needs has already been provided. His only task is to learn to release, to trust, and to receive. When he stops holding his life in fear, life begins to hold him. Chapter 4. Faith as the bridge to manifestation. Faith is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between what man desires and what he experiences. There is no manifestation without faith, for faith is the very substance of creation. It is the certainty that what is hoped for already exists, even though it has not yet taken form in the material world. Just as an architect envisions a completed building in his mind before the first stone is laid, so must a person see their well-being, success, and fullness within before they become reality. The problem is that most people don't place their faith in the good, but in the bad. They believe with conviction in sickness, scarcity, and tragedy, and their faith is fulfilled with the same precision as it would be if directed toward health, abundance, and happiness. Faith always works, but it is up to each person to decide whether to use it for or against themselves. Scripture says, "Let it be done to you according to your faith." And so it is. It does not say according to your need, nor according to your desire, but according to your faith. It doesn't matter how great a person's desire is. If their faith is placed in difficulty, difficulty is what they will receive. If a man expects good to come, good will come. But if he expects calamity, calamity will knock at his door. I have known people who lived in constant fear of losing what they had, and sooner or later they lost exactly what they clung to with fear. I've seen others who feared getting sick, and their fear became the prophecy their body fulfilled. But I've also seen those who, regardless of circumstances, held on to unshakable faith that everything was resolved in their favor, and their conviction shaped their reality to match their belief. A man once told me, "I always have bad luck. Nothing ever works out for me." And he was right, not because fate was against him, but because his faith was rooted in failure. He didn't know he was decreeing his future with every word. If instead he had said, "Everything works out for me. Life always moves in my favor," his story would have been different. The universe does not distinguish between good and bad. It simply responds to man's faith. Faith is the force that gives life to the spoken word. It is not enough to say something. You must believe it with absolute certainty. The man who repeats affirmations without conviction is like one who plants a seed and then digs it up every day to check if it's growing. But the one with unwavering faith, the one who declares confidently that their good is assured, is like a farmer who rests, knowing the harvest will come. Faith is more than positive thinking. It is a living law that works with precise order. Jesus demonstrated this truth when he gave thanks before the loaves and fishes multiplied. He did not wait to see the miracle to believe in it. He gave thanks as if it had already happened. And then the manifestation occurred. So must faith be, a certainty not based on what the eyes see, but on what the soul knows. I once met a woman who lived for years in lack. Her faith was rooted in scarcity, and she reinforced that belief daily by saying, "I never have enough money." When she understood this law, she chose to change her speech. Instead of speaking lack, she began to declare, "I always have more than enough. Divine provision flows effortlessly into my life." At first, her mind resisted. Reality seemed to contradict her words, but she did not doubt. She refused to let appearances dictate her faith, and in time, her financial situation completely changed. This is the secret. Faith is not based on what is seen, but on what is known deep within the heart. The man who waits to see proof before believing will never see anything. But the one who believes first, without needing to see, will experience the reality of his faith. Some say, it's hard to have faith when everything is going wrong. But true faith is tested precisely in moments of darkness. It is not hard to believe when everything is easy. True faith is the one that stands firm in the storm, the one that continues declaring light, even when all around seems to be shadow. There are two kinds of people in the world, those who wait to see in order to believe, and those who believe in order to see. The first are always subject to circumstances, to the changing tides of the external world. If money comes, they feel secure. If it disappears, they fall into despair. If health is present, they smile. If they fall ill, they sink into fear. But the second have learned that power is not in what they see, but in what they hold in their minds and hearts. They create their reality with faith and do not allow external conditions to dictate their destiny. A man who was facing great difficulty once told me, "I see no way out. Everything points to this ending badly." I replied, "It doesn't matter what you see. What matters is what you believe. Do you believe in the difficulty or in divine intelligence? Decide where you will place your faith, because what you choose will be what you receive." Soon after, this man changed his attitude. Instead of speaking about problems, he began to speak of solutions. Instead of saying everything was lost, he began to declare that everything was resolving perfectly, and what once seemed impossible began to shift. The situation that troubled him transformed in an unexpected way. Nothing is impossible for the one who has faith, but not just any faith, a living, firm, doubtless faith. Doubt is the enemy of manifestation. A man who asks for something and then doubts is like one who takes 2 steps forward and 3 back. He cannot get anywhere because his indecision keeps him stagnant. Scripture states it clearly: the double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. You cannot have faith in abundance one day and speak of scarcity the next. You cannot trust in health in the morning and fear sickness at night. Faith must be constant, unshakable, like a rock unmoved by the storm. The man who understands this truth stops being a victim of fate. He knows there is no such thing as chance, that all things respond to his own faith. If something in his life is not as he wishes, instead of complaining, he examines what he has been believing. If he has expected difficulty, he has received it. If he has feared lack, he has experienced it. But if he has believed in goodness, in provision, in health, then that is what has manifested. The world is nothing more than a mirror that reflects what we carry within. Change your faith, and your reflection will change. Declare with certainty what you desire, and you will see it manifest. Do not doubt, do not question, do not hesitate. Faith does not waver, faith does not negotiate. Faith knows, and the one who knows receives. Chapter 5, Love and Detachment, Keys to Harmony. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. It is the very essence of creation, the principle that sustains all things. But true love is not possession, it is not control, it is not fear disguised as affection. Authentic love is free, it flows effortlessly. It neither holds on nor clings because it knows that what belongs to it by divine right can never be lost. The greatest mistake man makes is confusing love with need. He thinks he loves a person when in reality he fears losing them. He believes he loves his job when in truth he fears having no livelihood. He thinks he loves his material possessions when in fact he hoards them out of fear of scarcity. But love born from fear is not love, it is slavery, and that which a man clings to in fear, he inevitably loses. The scriptures say, "What I feared has come upon me," and so it is. Fear of losing something invites its disappearance from our lives. But he who loves freely and trusts, who lets go without fear, who releases without anguish, receives back multiplied. I have seen many people desperate because someone they loved has drifted away. They cry, beg, and try to reclaim what is lost, but in their despair, they only push them farther away. They don't understand that love cannot be forced, held, or manipulated. True love is like a bird. If you lock it in a cage, it dies, but if you give it wings to fly, it will return by its own will. A woman came to me distressed because her husband had left her. She said, "I love him with all my heart. I cannot live without him." But in her eyes there was no love, only desperation. I told her, if you truly loved him, you would let him go. Love does not plead. Love does not beg. Love trusts. I asked her to start blessing her husband, to wish him happiness no matter where he was, to release all complaints and resentment. At first it seemed impossible, but she decided to try. Each day she repeated, "I bless his path, I bless his happiness, I bless my own wholeness." Gradually, her anguish turned to peace, and when she finally stopped clinging, her husband returned, not because she forced him, but because her energy had changed. Love is like a river flowing in perfect harmony, but man with his need for control builds walls and dams, preventing the water from following its natural course. Then when the pressure builds and the water overflows, he laments and doesn't understand why everything collapsed. But if he let love flow without fear, he would discover that everything that belongs to him by divine right will always find its way back. This applies not only to relationships, but to all aspects of life. Money held greedily stagnates, wealth shared joyfully multiplies. I have known people who lost entire fortunes because their love for money was possessive and fearful. They saved every penny out of fear of scarcity, and in the end, lost it all. But I have also seen those who give generously and without fear, trusting that divine provision is infinite, and abundance flows effortlessly to them. The principle is simple. What you release with faith returns multiplied. The scriptures confirm this. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be poured into your lap. But many do not believe this law. They give with fear and doubt, waiting to see the harvest before planting the seed. They don't understand that sowing always precedes the harvest. I remember a man who told me, "I can't give, I barely have enough for myself." I replied, "Precisely for that reason you must give. If you wait until you have plenty to share, you will never have anything. Give now, even if it is little, and you will see abundance open up for you." He decided to try. With the little money he had, he helped someone in need. At first, he felt fear, but forced himself to trust. Days later, he received a job offer with a salary 3 times higher than before. Abundance came because he let go of fear and demonstrated love. Love and detachment go hand in hand. You cannot truly love if there is attachment, because attachment is just fear in disguise. He who clings fears, he who blocks blessing. But he who lets go with confidence receives fully. A woman suffering anxiety over her health told me, "Every day I check my symptoms. Every day I fear the worst." I replied, "How do you expect to heal if every day you reinforce your faith in illness? Let go of the burden, stop looking for signs of the bad, and start affirming the perfection of your body." At first it was hard for her, but she began repeating, "My body is a perfect channel of divine health. I trust the infinite intelligence that sustains me." She forced herself to stop fearing and to release the anguish, and her body responded. The illness disappeared when she stopped clinging to it. This is the key. What you release with faith, what you give without fear, what you free with love, returns transformed into blessing. The man who fears losing what he has already decreed its loss. He who trusts that all good belongs to him by divine right will never lack anything. He who lets go with love finds true peace. If there is something in your life causing you anguish, let it go. If you fear losing someone, bless them and set them free. If you cling to money, begin giving with confidence. If illness torments you, stop looking for symptoms and affirm health. True love does not hold, does not control, does not impose conditions. Love trusts. Love lets go. Love knows that all good always returns. When you understand this truth, you will live in perfect harmony with the divine law. There will be no fear in your heart, because you will know that you cannot lose what is rightfully yours. What love touches, it transforms. What love lets go, it elevates. What love blesses, it multiplies. Let go of the burden, trust in love, and all that you seek will come effortlessly. Chapter 6. The Law of Prosperity and Abundance. Prosperity is not an accident, nor a coincidence, nor the result of luck. It is a law as precise as the law of gravity. Just as a seed planted in fertile soil grows with certainty, so too does abundance come to those who understand and apply the spiritual laws that govern it. A person who lives in scarcity does not do so because abundance is unavailable to them, but because they have sown in their mind the seeds of fear, lack, and limitation. Their faith is placed in shortage, and what they believe with conviction is what they receive. The scriptures confirm this. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. If a man believes that money is scarce, that life is difficult, that success is only for a few, then his world will reflect those beliefs. But the one who recognizes that abundance is a universal principle, who understands that divine intelligence is the inexhaustible source of all provision, begins to see their reality transform. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because their faith changes. And faith is what shapes destiny. Many believe that money is the source of prosperity, but this is a mistake. Money is only a channel, a means, not the source. The true source of abundance is a person's consciousness. If their mind is aligned with scarcity, no matter how much money they have, they will always live in fear of losing it. But if their mind is aligned with abundance, even amid apparent lack, they will always find ways to prosper. I have known people who lost their entire fortunes and recovered them easily because their consciousness never strayed from abundance. I have also seen those who, despite having money, live in constant anguish of loss, trapped in the prison of fear. It is not money that makes a person rich, but their relationship with wealth. The scriptures say, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Yet most people live as if scarcity were their shepherd, as if lack were their inevitable destiny. They talk about what they don't have, worry about tomorrow, and fear loss. They don't understand that prosperity cannot come to a mind that is closed to receiving it. A woman came to me saying, "No matter how much I work, money never lasts." I asked her, "What do you say about money?" She replied, "I always lack it. It's never enough." I explained that her words were decrees that her subconscious took as orders. "Change your words, and you will change your reality," I told her. I asked her to begin declaring, "I always have more than enough. Wealth flows effortlessly in my life." At first it seemed absurd, but she decided to try. Day after day she affirmed her abundance without doubting. She didn't allow the appearance of scarcity to make her waver, and soon her situation changed. Without seeking it, she received an unexpected opportunity that brought her abundant income. This shows that a person doesn't need money to bring money. They need faith in abundance. When the mind aligns with wealth, opportunities arrive effortlessly. But the one who clings to fear of lack blocks the flow of provision. Money, like everything in life, is energy in motion. If a person holds it with fear, it stagnates. If with confidence and gratitude, it multiplies. Generosity activates the law of giving and receiving. Yet many fear giving because they believe that if they do, they will have less. They don't understand that the act of giving is the signal sent to the universe that they trust divine provision. The scriptures say, "Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of all your produce. Then your barns will be filled with plenty." This does not mean we should give out of obligation or fear, but with gratitude and certainty. The one who gives with faith receives multiplied. I knew a man who lived in fear of scarcity. He hoarded every coin greedily, thinking this would secure his future. But instead of prospering, his money seemed to vanish in unforeseen expenses. Finally, when he understood the law of abundance, he decided to make an act of faith. He took an amount of money and donated it without fear, saying, "I trust divine provision, not my bank account." A few days later, he received an unexpected contract that brought him more money than he had given. It was no coincidence. It was the law in action. The problem for most people is that they want to receive before giving, to see before believing. But the law of prosperity works the opposite way. First, you must sow, then reap. First, believe, then see. The person who trusts abundance acts as if they already have what they desire, and by that same faith they receive it. I have seen people change their economic destiny simply by changing their attitude toward money. Instead of saying, "I can't afford it," they began saying, "Perfect provision comes to me at the perfect time." Instead of fearing lack, they began affirming their divine right to prosperity, and the universe responded. Scarcity is nothing more than a reflection of the mind. Change the mind, and reality will transform. Abundance is not pursued, it is attracted. It is not fought for, it is allowed. The scriptures confirm this. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be opened to you. But many ask with fear, seek with anguish, knock with doubt. It is not enough to ask, you must ask with certainty. If you desire prosperity, begin to act like a prosperous person. This doesn't mean spending without measure or being reckless, but moving with the certainty that the universe supports you. Give with joy, receive with gratitude, speak with confidence. Every word you utter should reflect your faith in abundance. Those who understand this law no longer fear lack. They know divine provision is inexhaustible. Their sustenance does not depend on a salary or an external source, but on their faith. They do not worry about tomorrow because they know their good is already assured. The person who lives with this certainty is not a slave to money, but its master. They do not work out of necessity, but purpose. They do not fear loss because they know everything they need will be given to them. They do not cling because they trust abundance. It flows effortlessly. When you understand this law, you will see that prosperity is not a privilege of a few, but a divine right of everyone who aligns with truth. Abundance already exists. You only have to claim it with faith. The mind is the channel through which prosperity manifests. Think of wealth, and wealth you shall receive. Think of scarcity, and scarcity you will attract, because the law of prosperity is as infallible as the law of gravity. It does not fail. You only have to learn to use it in your favor. Chapter 7. Fear is the great obstacle. Fear is the silent enemy that governs the lives of most people. It infiltrates thoughts, words, and decisions, and without a man realizing it, takes control of his destiny. Fear is not just a passing emotion, it is a creative force that, like faith, shapes reality. The scriptures say, "For what I feared has come upon me, and what I dreaded has happened to me." This is the law in action. Fear is a prophecy a man imposes on himself. He who fears illness attracts it. He who fears poverty calls it to his door. He who fears loneliness ends up finding it. Fear is faith in the negative. It is the certainty that evil will manifest. There is nothing more destructive than a man whose mind is ruled by fear. He is an architect building his own prison, a sower cultivating thorns in his own field. He may desire happiness, abundance, success, but if his faith is placed in misfortune, that will be his harvest. Fear is the great trap of the material world. From the moment a man is born, he is taught to fear. He is told life is hard, money is scarce, health is fragile, and love is unstable. He grows up believing he must fight, protect himself, and distrust. Unaware with every thought and every word, he strengthens the very darkness he tries to escape. But fear is not real. It is a shadow, an illusion that fades when the light of faith is turned on. Fear has no power by itself, only the power that a man grants it. I have known people who lost everything because of their fear of losing it. I have seen the sick worsen because they feared illness more than they trusted in health. But I have also seen those who, amid the greatest adversity, held on to unwavering faith and emerged victorious. A woman came to me desperate because her husband had left her. She said, "From the first day, I was afraid this would happen." I replied, "Then what surprises you? You have been sowing this separation in your mind for years. You could not receive anything else." She understood her mistake. Instead of lamenting, she decided to change her faith. She began to declare, "God restores my happiness. Everything is in divine order." And over time, her life transformed. Not because she struggled, not because she begged, but because she changed her belief. Fear must be faced as the enemy that it is. You cannot reason with it. You cannot negotiate with it. You must challenge it with faith. The man who flees fear becomes its slave, but the one who confronts it makes it disappear. The scriptures say, "You shall not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day." This is the promise of those who walk by faith. He who trusts in divine intelligence has nothing to fear. He does not fear scarcity because he knows divine provision is infinite. He does not fear illness because he knows health is his right. He does not fear loneliness because he knows perfect love always surrounds him. But he who doubts, hesitates, and allows his mind to fill with shadows walks dangerous paths. Fear is an invitation to evil. It is a magnet that attracts precisely what a man wants to avoid. I met a man who lived in terror of losing his job. He constantly spoke about it, analyzed every detail with paranoia, imagined the worst scenario, and what he feared happened. Not because it was inevitable, but because his faith in loss was greater than his faith in divine provision. But I have also met those who in adversity said, "Everything is fine. Everything will be resolved perfectly." And so it was. Because fear is only a belief, it is a law. When fear appears in your mind, stop it immediately. Don't allow it to take root. Fear is not fought with logic, it is fought with faith. If you fear scarcity, declare, "God is my infinite provision. All that I need comes to me with ease." If you fear illness, affirm, "Divine health flows in me. My body is perfect and strong." If you fear loneliness, proclaim, "Perfect love fills my life." Speak with authority, don't give doubt space. Fear is a thief, and it only enters the house of one who leaves the door open. The scriptures say, "Resist the devil and he will flee from you." Fear is precisely that, an enemy to be resisted. No, don't feed it. No, don't reinforce it with your words. Don't make it your companion. Faith and fear cannot live in the same house. You either choose one or the other. I recall a woman who feared crossing a bridge. Every time she tried, she felt her body freeze. One day I said, "Cross it with faith. Say out loud, 'God sustains me. I walk with confidence.'" She did, and in that moment fear disappeared, not because the bridge changed, but because her mind changed. Fear is the great obstacle that prevents a man from receiving his good. It is a smokescreen that separates him from his blessings. But when he dares to walk by faith, when he declares with conviction that everything is in divine order, fear vanishes like the shadow it is. Every man must decide, either walk by faith or walk by fear, but whatever he chooses will govern his life. Chapter 8. Intuition as a Spiritual Guide. Intuition is the silent voice of divine intelligence that guides us at every moment. It is God's whisper in our conscience, the invisible path that leads us without error toward the good. But few hear it, and even fewer follow it. Man has been trained to depend on reason, to calculate, analyze, and foresee step by step. But reason is limited. Intuition, on the other hand, is the direct connection to absolute truth. The scriptures say, "Acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will make your path straight." But how can we recognize divine direction if the noise of the world fills the mind with doubts, fears, and reasoning? Intuition only manifests in a quiet mind and a trusting heart. A person who does not listen to their intuition walks blindly, relying on intellect, on others' opinions, on what seems logical. But logic is not always truth. What seems certain may be a trap, and what seems a loss may be the greatest blessing. Only intuition knows what the eye cannot see. I remember a woman who came to me facing a difficult decision. She had 2 job offers, one with a high salary, the other more modest, but in a work environment she found more harmonious. Her mind told her to choose the better-paying offer, but her intuition said otherwise. I told her, "Trust the inner voice because it sees beyond what is obvious." She decided to follow her intuition. A few months later, the company offering the higher salary went bankrupt and laid off all employees. Her intuition had saved her from a crisis, but most people ignore these signs. Doubts, fear, and the desire to control cloud the voice within. They cling to what seems safe, to what others advise, and end up on paths of confusion and frustration. Intuition is not a mystery reserved for a few. It is a divine gift we all possess, but to receive it clearly, a person must learn to trust. Faith and intuition walk together. I have known people who received internal warnings about important decisions. A man told me that during a business trip, he felt an inexplicable urge not to board a plane. Everything seemed fine. There was no logical reason to doubt, but his intuition insisted. He decided to listen and changed his flight. That very night, the plane he was supposed to board crashed. There were no external signs, only the silent voice of intuition protecting him. Man's greatest mistake is doubting his inner guidance. Intuition never shouts, never forces. It is a gentle certainty, an impression that arises effortlessly. Those who learn to follow it discover that it never fails. The scriptures confirm it. They will hear behind you a voice saying, "This is the way. Walk in it." This voice does not belong to reason, fear, or logic. It is the voice of infinite wisdom that always knows what to do. A person who learns to follow their intuition lives in a state of flow and harmony. They do not fight, do not force, do not fear. They know they will always be led to where they must be. A student once came to me seeking advice. She wanted to move to another city, but was unsure which was the best option. I told her, "Do not seek signs outside. Close your eyes, quiet your mind, and ask within. The answer is already inside you." Days later, she felt a deep peace thinking of one of the cities. There was no logical reason, but her heart knew. She moved there and found an opportunity she had never imagined because intuition always guides to the greatest blessing. But many refuse to trust this law. They seek external confirmations, want guarantees, want proof. But intuition is not subject to proof. It is either followed or ignored. Those who follow it find the path effortlessly. Those who ignore it stumble, wander in circles, and suffer losses they could have avoided. When faced with a decision, do not be carried away by urgency or the pressure of the world. Stop, quiet your mind, and listen. Do not think about what is logical or what seems safe. Think about what gives you peace. Intuition does not always choose the easiest path, but always chooses the right path. When you walk with intuition, you walk with God. And when you walk with God, you can never be lost. Chapter 9. Discovering and following life's purpose. Every soul comes into the world with a divine purpose, a unique mission that only it can fulfill. Man is not a leaf blown by the wind, nor a spectator in his own existence. He has been sent with a destiny, with a calling that only he can answer. But most live without discovering it, trapped in routine, fear, and the expectations of the world. The scriptures say, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you." A plan is laid out, a work waiting to be manifested. The problem is that man seeks his purpose in the wrong places, in money, in the approval of others, in what society considers success. But purpose is not found outside. It is found in connection with divine intelligence. The person who discovers their purpose finds true fulfillment. They no longer work out of obligation, but out of passion. They no longer struggle against life, but flow with it. Purpose is not a burden. It is the highest expression of being. I have known people who have worked for years in jobs they hate, believing they had no other choice. They ignored their intuition, silenced their gifts, repressed their true desires. But the soul never stops speaking. When a person strays from their purpose, they feel emptiness, frustration, dissatisfaction. Suffering is a sign that a person has veered off their path. It is not a punishment. It is a reminder. Deep sadness, the feeling of being lost, lack of motivation, these are messages telling us it is time to listen, to stop, and to ask, "Am I living according to my true essence?" A woman came to me saying, "I don't know what to do with my life. Nothing makes sense." I asked her, "What did you love as a child? What activity makes time disappear for you?" She was silent, then whispered, I always wanted to write, but I was told it was not a real profession. There lay her answer, not in what the world considered practical, but in what her soul longed for. I told her, "Your purpose is there, waiting for you to have the courage to follow it." She began to write without expectations, without fear. Over time, her life changed. Not only did she find success in her new profession, but she also experienced a peace and joy she had never felt before, because the soul never errs. Following life's purpose requires faith. The world will say it is risky, unrealistic, that it is better to settle. But conformity is the worst evil. The person who settles gives up their destiny, dims their light, becomes a shadow of what they could have been. The scriptures say, "For God did not give us a spirit of cowardice, but of power, love, and self-discipline." Following purpose requires courage, but the one who takes the first step finds that the path was already prepared for them. I remember a man working in a prosperous business, but it did not make him happy. He said to me, "I feel my life is a repetitive cycle, but I'm afraid to change." I replied, "Fear is the barrier between you and your true destiny. Don't wait for it to disappear, face it." He dared to leave his business and dedicate himself to what he truly loved. In a few months, opportunities came that he never would have imagined, because purpose never leads to poverty but to the greatest wealth, inner peace. But some ask, what if I don't know my purpose? Purpose is not something found with the mind but with the heart. If you don't see it clearly, ask for guidance. Say aloud, "God, reveal the perfect plan for my life. Open the way, show me the sign." Answers come here within. Look for a persistent thought, a desire that never fades, a talent the world recognizes in you. These are signs of your calling. Purpose is neither distant nor unreachable. It is already inside you. But many reject it because they believe they are not enough, that their passion has no value, that their gifts are insignificant. But God makes no mistakes. If you have been given a skill, it is because the world needs it. I have known people who believed their talents were useless, but by following them they found abundance and success, because purpose always comes with provision. The greatest mistake is to assume that following purpose means sacrifice and suffering. True purpose is not suffered, it is enjoyed. It is not a battle, it is a flow. It is not a renunciation, it is a reunion with true essence. The scriptures say, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." A person's treasure is their purpose. It is not money, recognition, or external security. It is what makes them feel alive. The one who discovers their purpose no longer needs to force success. Success finds them. The key is to stop fighting the current and allow life to carry us where we have always been destined to be. Because when a person follows their purpose, everything in their life aligns perfectly. There is no effort, no struggle, only certainty, joy, and fulfillment. Chapter 10. The Power of Affirmations and Inertia. Every word that a person speaks is a decree that shapes their destiny. Life does not respond to what a person wants, but to what they affirm with conviction. That which is repeated constantly becomes the law that governs their existence. Affirmations and inertia are not just phrases. They are keys that open or close the doors of reality. From the beginning, creation was manifested through the Word, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Here a fundamental principle is revealed. Everything that exists has been called into existence by the Word. But man has forgotten this power. He speaks without awareness, declares scarcity, illness, suffering, and then wonders why his life is full of difficulties. He does not understand that every word that comes out of his mouth is a command the universe obeys. Affirmations build, negations destroy what does not belong to the divine order. If a man desires wealth but constantly says, "I have no money," "Life is hard," "I never have enough," he is signing his own sentence. His words bind him to scarcity because the subconscious takes each statement as an absolute order. It does not distinguish between what the man says intentionally or not. It only executes. Therefore, the first step to transform reality is to control language. Not a single word of fear, lack, or illness can be uttered. Every time a negative affirmation wants to come out, it must be immediately replaced by an affirmation of power. I have known people who have changed their destiny with a simple change in their vocabulary. They stopped speaking about what they lacked and began declaring their abundance. They stopped saying, "I am sick," and began affirming, "My body is a temple of perfect health." They stopped declaring, "There are no opportunities," and began proclaiming, "Perfect opportunities come to me now." The change was not immediate, but with constant repetition, their reality transformed because the word is the seed, and the subconscious is the soil where it grows. Affirmations must be spoken with certainty. They are not begged or pleaded. They are declared with the authority of one who knows the law never fails. The scriptures say, "You shall decree a thing, and it shall be established for you," but the decree must be firm. There can be no hesitation, there can be no doubt. If a man desires success but doubts in his mind and thinks, "What if this doesn't work? What if I fail?" then he weakens his affirmation. Faith cannot be mixed with fear. He who affirms confidently receives without delay. He who affirms with doubt encounters obstacles. Negations, on the other hand, are the sword that cuts through all erroneous manifestations. If a man has sown thoughts of scarcity for years, it is not enough to affirm abundance. He must first deny the error. If a person has lived under the shadow of illness, it is not enough to declare health. He must first break the mental image he has held, eliminate the false belief, and then plant the new seed. Nerci are not made with fear, but with authority. Darkness is not fought, light is proclaimed. If a man fears losing something, he must say, "There is no loss in the divine order. Everything that belongs to me by divine right is mine, and no one can take it away." If he fears poverty, he must declare, "I deny scarcity. Lack does not exist in God's universe. I am prosperous by divine right." If illness stalks him, he must affirm with power, "I deny this appearance. My body is a perfect manifestation of divine health." Affirmations and nerci are man's most powerful tools, but it is not enough to say them once. They must be repeated until they are imprinted in the subconscious. The mind does not change overnight. It is a field that has been cultivated for years with bad seeds. If a man has spent 20 years declaring poverty, he cannot expect a single affirmation of wealth to transform his reality in one day. But with persistence, the old pattern breaks and the new truth is established. I met a woman who suffered constant financial problems. Her language was full of complaints. She said, "I never have enough. Everything goes wrong for me. Money slips away like water." I told her, "You must change your declaration. You must speak like a prosperous person, even if you don't see the evidence yet." At first it seemed ridiculous to her, but she decided to try. She began affirming every day, "I am prosperous. Money comes to me in unexpected ways. Everything I touch prospers." The first days felt strange. Her mind wanted to return to old thoughts, but she persisted. After a month, her situation began to change. Opportunities she had never imagined appeared. The money that once slipped away began to flow because the mind always aligns with the word it hears the most. The scriptures say, "Life and death are in the power of the tongue." Every day, a man chooses what to sow. His words are seeds of abundance or scarcity, health or illness, success or failure. There is no coincidence in life. Everything is the result of what has been spoken and believed. He who wishes to transform his destiny must first transform his language. Never say a word of fear again. Never declare what you do not wish to receive. Speak only what you want to see manifested. And then your world will change, because man is master of his word, and his word is master of his destiny. Chapter 11. The Law of Correspondence and Manifestation. Man is not an isolated being. He is not a victim of circumstances nor a passive spectator of his destiny. He is a creator, an architect of his own reality. What he sees in the outer world is an exact reflection of his inner world. There is no chance, no injustice, only correspondence between what a man believes and what he receives. The scriptures say, "As water reflects the face, so the heart of man reflects the man." This is the law of correspondence. Everything that exists outside first existed within. A man surrounded by poverty, illness, or conflict must look inside himself. He should not seek to blame others, nor fight against the world. Instead, he must ask himself, what am I holding in my mind that has created this? The world is not an enemy, it is a mirror. It neither punishes nor rewards, it only reflects. He who holds fear finds reasons to fear. He who holds scarcity lives in lack. He who holds resentment attracts more situations that feed his pain. I have known those who ask, why do I always surround myself with dishonest people? The answer is clear. Because in their minds the image of betrayal already exists. Perhaps it was planted by a past experience or learned in childhood, but as long as that image exists, it will repeat again and again. Man does not receive what he wants, he receives what he is. If he wants to change his world, he must first change his mind. He cannot fight poverty while feeling poor inside. He cannot attract love while holding fear of abandonment within. The scriptures say, to him who has more will be given, but from him who has not, even what he has will be taken away. This phrase is often misunderstood. It does not speak of injustice, but of vibration. He who has a consciousness of wealth attracts more wealth. He who has a consciousness of loss continues to lose. The universe does not respond to empty words, but to the inner vibration of the man. It is not enough to say, I am prosperous, if inside there is still fear. Correspondence is not activated by words alone, but by the certainty with which they are spoken. I met a man who repeated prosperity affirmations every day, yet his life did not change. He told me, I have affirmed for months that money comes to me, but I remain in the same situation. I asked, how do you feel when you say those words? He fell silent, then confessed, I feel like I'm lying. Here was the problem. The words were correct, but his feelings contradicted them. The universe does not respond to what man says, it responds to what man believes. I told him, before affirming, you must first clear your mind of belief in scarcity. If within you still hold the idea that life is hard, that money is scarce, that you are unworthy, no affirmation will work. He began working on his beliefs, stopped focusing on money, and started cultivating the certainty that the universe is abundant, that provision is constant. Gradually his vibration changed, and when he finally affirmed, I am prosperous, with conviction, the doors of abundance opened for him. The law of correspondence has no exceptions. There are no favored or disfavored people, no unjust destinies, only consciousnesses aligned with certain manifestations. If a man wants to manifest something, he must ask himself, am I in correspondence with it? Is my inner state consistent with what I desire? A woman came to me desperate because she longed to marry, but every relationship ended in failure. She said, I make love affirmations, but I remain alone. I asked, how do you think about love? Do you feel it is easy and natural for you, or do you see it as something difficult to achieve? She answered, I have always felt that finding true love is complicated. Here was her trap. No matter how many affirmations she made, her belief in the difficulty of love was stronger. I taught her to change her vibration. Before affirming, she had to feel love as something close, something natural. Gradually, she stopped focusing on lack and began to feel she was already surrounded by love. When her mind changed, her reality changed. Because man does not attract what he wants, he attracts what he believes. The scriptures say, if two of you agree on earth about anything you ask, it will be done for you. This is another key for manifestation. The conscious mind and the subconscious mind must agree. If a man wants abundance but inside still holds fear, there will be no correspondence. The greatest work is not outside, it is within. Before seeing changes in reality, a man must ensure he has changed inside. It is not enough to desire, not enough to ask, not enough to affirm. One must become what one desires. He who wants peace must feel peace inside before seeing it in the world. He who wants success must see himself as a successful man before receiving it. He who wants love must feel loved before love appears. The world is not the origin of reality. It is only a reflection. The origin is in the mind. That is why the wise man does not fight circumstances. He does not blame nor complain. He only stops, looks within and asks, "What image am I holding that has created this?" And when he changes the image, his world changes. Because manifestation is not a mystery, it is simply the natural consequence of what a man has already created inside. Chapter 12. The Inner Christ and the Manifestation of Good. Within every human being dwells a divine spark, an unchanging presence that knows no sickness, lack, or fear. This presence is the inner Christ, the pure essence of man, his highest self, the channel through which all good manifests. The scriptures say, "Do not let yourselves be called masters, for one is your master, the Christ." This is not a symbolic teaching, but a literal truth. The Christ in us is the only teacher, the only real power, the only one capable of manifesting perfection in our lives. However, ordinary man lives disconnected from this truth. He identifies with his personality, his fears, his history, and forgets that within him lies a power that frees him from all limitation. The inner Christ is not an unattainable ideal, nor a religious concept or a distant entity. It is the very center of being, the higher self, the part of man never touched by error, doubt, or suffering. Man's greatest mistake has been to search outside what has always been within. He seeks healing in external remedies when health already exists in his inner Christ. He seeks wealth in unstable sources when true provision is his connection to the infinite source. He seeks love in fragile relationships when perfect love already resides within him. The outer world is a reflection of the degree to which man has recognized his inner Christ. The one who lives in struggle is because he still believes he must fight. The one who lives in scarcity is because he still believes something is missing. The one who lives in fear is because he has not yet recognized his true identity. The scriptures say, "I have come that they may have life, and have it abundantly." The Christ in us does not know scarcity. It is life itself, fullness, absolute abundance. But it cannot act where it is not recognized. I have met people who pray and affirm, yet in their hearts they still feel weak, limited, unprotected. They still see God as something distant. They still believe they must struggle to receive what already belongs to them. I remember a woman who came to me desperate. Her life was full of difficulties, and she felt nothing was going well. I asked, "Do you recognize your inner Christ?" She looked at me confused and said, "I don't know what that means." I explained, "It means knowing that within you there is a power that has already solved every problem, that has already manifested all good. You don't have to fight for abundance or beg for healing. You only need to accept what is already yours." She then began to affirm daily, "Christ in me is my infinite provision. Christ in me is my perfect health. Christ in me is my victory." At first her mind doubted, but over time she began to feel it, to believe it. And when she believed, her world changed. Because man does not receive through effort, but through recognition. Good exists. It only needs to be accepted. The scriptures say, "If the Son sets you free, you will be truly free." The Son is the Christ in us. When man recognizes his inner Christ, he is freed from all burdens, all limitations, all fears. Because the Christ in us is not a concept, it is a living law. The one who recognizes it walks with certainty. The one who ignores it continues searching for what was never lost. I have known people who believe they must prove their worth, who must work tirelessly to be worthy of receiving good. But this is an illusion. Good is already given. Abundance is already present. Healing is already complete. The only thing man must do is stop identifying with limitation and start identifying with his inner Christ.